Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. This week, I was lucky enough to chat with writer, producer, and actress Ellen Hollman. You can see Ellen in the action thriller Army of One, which just came out December 15th on iTunes, Vudu, Xbox, all the streamings. The trailer for Army of One is action packed, and I can't wait to see the movie. Separate from that, Ellen has also been involved in the sci fi adventure film Love and Monsters from Paramount, which stars Dylan O'Brien and Michael Rooker. And she's also involved in the highly anticipated fourth installment of the Matrix franchise. That film is slated to be released December of next year on HBO Max and in theaters worldwide. We talk as much about it as she can, get into details about Army of One, how she stays ready for her roles, and much more. It's a great interview, and I hope you enjoy.
Hey Les, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for making time today. I really appreciate it.
No, of course, absolutely. Thank you for the invitation.
So I wanted to talk both about making Army of One as a producer, as a writer, working with someone that you're in a personal relationship with, but also just the stunts from the trailer. So let's if you don't let's jump straight into it. In watching the trailer of this, obviously the revenge is a genre unto itself in action and horror, and so there's a history of movies like of this vein. When you were setting out to make this, kind of where did the story come from, and how did this come together to be the project that you were going to take all the way to fruition?
Very good question, Les. Actually, my husband and I, Stephen Dunleavy, who we both work with each other a lot. This was brought to us quite late in the game. In fact, they already had the first draft of the script done. They already had some locations and some idea of cast. So when Stephen Durham brought me the script, I was actually the one that said, "Hey, this character Brenner is highly appealing. However, I would love to put my stamp on it as a female." But what happens all too often is the action thriller genre is quite male dominated, as we have seen. And there are some impressive films out there as well as television. However, I feel that adding an actual female voice to something really brings a whole other level of authenticity. You'll find that there's far less push-up bras and latex when a woman is the one writing the narrative. So Stephen Durham was more than highly agreeable on that aspect, as well as having me on board as a producer, and then completely gut and revamp the action design with my husband, who is with 8711 action design team, and they've done everything from the John Wick to Deadpool to Atomic Blonde. So this is certainly their wheelhouse, and it's bringing that level of action to a smaller budget.
Now, you've been in Scorpion King sequels. You've been in action movies or big, wild movies before. Was this different, being that the stunts, the violence is going to be of a more intimate, vicious kind of feeling? Was this movie a little bit different for you than previous work?
I had a lot more at stake with this one because I was wearing so many hats. So you have a proverbial gun to your head in that sense, where it's like across the board, you are putting your neck out there. And what I find hilarious in these headlines that I'm seeing is rising action star Ellen Hollman. I'm like, I've been doing this shit for 2 decades, guys.
Overnight success, Ellen Hollman.
Yeah. Oh my God. I just want to hit my head against the wall. I'm like, I've been doing this long enough to know better, but still do it anyways. So that cracks me up. anytime I hear that. Everyone wants to hear the overnight success, and anything that's worth its weight in salt, expensive salt, has experience behind it.
Yeah.
So what made this different is that I did have a literary input. I did have a producing input, and I had a massive input in regards to action as well as post-production. I put in an extra 130, 140 hours of editing, as well as completely revamp and redo the entire score with a brilliant composer named Austin Frey. And movies are made in the editing room. They are absolutely made in the editing room. Of course, you need all the material in order to cut it together. But that was a massive challenge, an exciting challenge.
I've heard that before. One of my favorite quotes about screenwriting is that screenplays are not a complete artwork; they're an invitation to collaborate on an artwork. And I love that idea. But that also you make your movie three times. That it's somebody's vision on the page, and then somebody shoots it in principle, and then you assemble together what I see as a viewer in the theater, and those can be three wildly different things. Sometimes as a viewer, you can feel the tension between them of wow, y'all cut together a different movie than was written.
Right. Oh, isn't it? It's palatable. And not to knock any movies, but I feel that the last Venom, when you're watching it, you're like, are there three different directors doing this movie?
Was everyone?
And then you go to learn. Yeah, you learn that the lead protagonist, Tom Hardy, had his opinion. The director, Ruben, had his opinion, and then of course the writer had his opinion. And it is a freaking miracle.
Yeah.
When a movie comes together, makes sense, and is entertaining, and just overall high quality.
Yeah.
It is a nearly impossible feat.
Yeah, I always think famously of like American History X having tensions of what this movie was going to be, and then you see stuff sometimes where everybody is just so obviously on the same page and just full steam ahead for the same goal. When you were getting bit by the acting bug in Detroit and just deciding to get into this industry, was wearing all these hats something that you had always wanted to do? And as you started to put on more of these hats, how did you keep the movie on a focused tone? I know you weren't the one directing it, but in terms of having a stake in this coming out right.
That's also a really good question. And I'm sure so many people feel this way, is that you know what you're capable of doing, you just aren't sure where that can take you. And it's been nearly, like I said, nearly 2 decades being a performer. And there's so many times I've completely revised my material. There's so many times I've literally done my own fight choreography. And other people get the credit for it. And it's fine. I'm finally at a point in my career, and I think also it's the era that we're living in now, where women now more than ever are getting a seat at the table, where I just said to myself, why not me? Why am I letting other people's work benefit from my efforts? And I finally just said to myself, I'm like, I'm not going to let that happen anymore. So that's why I really wanted to get my talons in this and just show the world, hey, with an extremely limited time and an insanely limited budget, this is what my husband and I can come up with. This is what we can come up with our resources and just our time in the industry. So I'm just excited where it can go from here.
It's got to be liberating to pull a project off and look back and go, yes, theory tested, I can do this.
Right. And you know what? I'm not completely sure that Stephen Durham realized what he was going to get at the end of the day. I don't think he realized the quality that was going to end up on the screen at the end of the day. And I think because of that, he was able to put ego aside and just say, here, you guys, this is your wheelhouse. Let's let you run with it. Because it was always Stephen Durham's initial idea we just took it and not just ran with it, we sprinted with it.
I mean, making a movie at any point is always just going to be wild, and you're hurting cats and spinning plates and every metaphor. But this year particularly,
or breaking plates in this
right?
case,
Burning cats and breaking plates, and so but this year particularly, timeline wise, when did y'all shoot this, and how did COVID affect that?
No, in fact, COVID allotted an additional round of editing, to be honest. And also timing wise, I feel that there's far less competition now than there was 6 months ago. Everybody is chewed through content on their streaming devices. I mean, I don't know about you. I just watched Usual Suspects and Fargo again because I'm like, there is nothing else to watch. Like, how many baking shows can you watch? And I'm certainly not going to rewatch Tiger King. So the timing of this is actually quite ideal because it is female forward, which gives it more of an empathetic heartbeat. It does action-wise compete with a much bigger budget films, and how much stuff do you still have in your streaming queue? Might as well give this a shot, guys.
Right. I mean, we're finally. This may be the year that American audiences finally start watching subtitled movies, just because some of my friends have run out of other things and are finally going, "What was that?
Right.
Fine. What was that movie you told me to watch?"
Exactly. And I think now more than ever, you're seeing either massive studio films that are being shot overseas, or you see these small independents that can fall underneath the radar. And I had no intention of falling under the radar. And if anything, the lack of content available right now has enabled this to get to the front of the line.
Now, I realize you may not be able to talk a whole lot about this, and if you spoil the movie for me, I'll honestly be mad. But while the rest of us are having a wild year for other reasons, you got to be involved with Matrix 4. Is there? I can't imagine there's a lot you could talk about it, but that's such a formative. I mean, having just made an action movie, the Matrix trilogy has redefined what action looks like to our whole generation. Was it wild getting to be involved with that project?
It was one of those moments that was absolutely surreal, but at the same time, I felt I deserved to be there. Our industry enables a lot of insecurity to breed. I, for one, try not to fall into that trap. It's almost like that survivor's guilt, where there's a pandemic, so why do I get to shoot one of the most cinematically epic franchises in history? You can just sort of, it can be overwhelming. But you just have to put your head down and make it all about the work and remember why it is you were chosen to begin with. And this is a particularly unique situation because the stunt team is 8711. So the same stunt team that I've been training with for 6+ years alongside my husband.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, they're my family, and it's a language. The way that they the way that they train their team at the helm of Chad Stahelski is truly unique and different than any stunt team I've ever seen. And I've been doing this a long time. And just here's Chad, who's got one of the most successful franchises in history. It is the only franchise that has grossed more and more with each sequel. Here he is. He could be sitting on his pile of gold if he wanted to. But instead, he's up at the literal ass crack of dawn to train his team at 6:45 in the morning, judo, jiu-jitsu, choreography, etc. And I've somehow managed to make my way into this small, unique family.
That's fantastic.
And it is a language that they speak. So it was almost a plug and play when they were teaching me a lot of the action that I had to perform in this. It was all in my wheelhouse. And I just happened to the a very particular look that Lana had in mind for this role. So there I was, or there I found myself in Berlin, Germany, in the midst of a global pandemic, shooting The Matrix 4. It was absolutely surreal.
Yeah. Surreal was the word popping into my mind too. That's just got to be crazy. When you were talking earlier about uh, not having a survivor's guilt about this, or not having no, I worked for this. I know these people. I learned how
Right.
to dance with this dance troupe. I know their moves. We're doing this.
Right. I mean, and what people don't see, they don't see my alarm going off at 4:45 in the morning, showing up to training at 6:45, getting
Yeah.
thrown over people's heads and me doing the same to them. They don't see me like sparring jujitsu and getting my ass kicked and also doing some ass kicking. Just, they don't see the bumps, the bruises, the scrapes, the blood, the sweat, the tears. Like, I can't even tell you how many thousands of hours I have spent in the jiu-jitsu world, in the sparring world. I can't, just the amount of aches and pains, like it hurts every time you get up from a meal, like you're so exhausted. And yeah, you question yourself, like, why am I doing this? And I've trained my ass off for some jobs that didn't end up happening. And it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. And second guessing yourself is a poison. It's an absolute poison. And you just have to keep diluting that doubt until one day it just goes away and you no longer question that ability, and you put that effort into your craft. You put that into your ability, and you put that into the forward momentum, which could be directing. It could be producing. It could be writing. Because, if someone tells you you can't, well, show them you can.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. And it's going to be that duck gliding on the water thing, from my seat on my couch watching the movie at home. You jump out into the Matrix and kick some ass, or get your ass kicked. I have no idea. It'll be spectacular. And I don't know that you worked a year at Dawn to be in the shape to be ready to do that. Just to
not that. Well, that's just the thing. Not a year. I'm talking about the past 6 years. That has been my life.
you've got to be ready for that opportunity in a way that I'm not ready. I mean, if I won the lottery ticket to get to go do Your Lucky Life, I'd die. I wouldn't make it through a day. You get to do it because you're ready. That's just super cool.
That's why people are like, oh, how long did you train for this? I'm like, my whole life.
Always.
Like 20 years. Like, if I just started training for this stuff, it'd be way too late. And that's something that is truly unique about Army of One, is that every single second of action you see are the actual performers doing it, whether it's our amazing stunt guys or our amazing cast or our stunt actors. Every single person does their own action and their own performance. There's no face replacement. There's no tricky CGI. There's no stunt doubles. Everything is 100% authentic that you see on screen. And I think that's what really allows this film to stand out, especially with this budget, because usually if you're going to have someone do a lot of their own action, I personally know Keanu does a lot of his own stuff. Well, they train like 6 months in advance to teach him the choreography. Like literally as we speak, the boys are in pre-production, along with my husband. He's been part of that franchise for years now. The amount of effort it takes just to prep your actors to do that, and they still have doubles. So, and that takes a lot of money. That's what people don't realize. Just to compensate your stunt team, just to compensate your actors week after week, month after month, like you're talking about hundreds and hundreds, if not millions of dollars. So for this precious little action drama that we have here for you, it is gritty. It is, like I said, our blood, sweat, and tears with no tricks up our sleeve.
I can't wait. So that's coming out on December 15th. Is that right?
It is. I'm so excited.
All right. Yeah, the trailer looks fun. I'm always a sucker for crime noir and it's just to me, it's such a wonderful genre of filmmaking that can be done frequently on a lower budget. Uh, and so you get to see people try more experimental stuff with plots, and you get darker endings sometimes. It's just I get a little bit more surprised than I do in a tentpole movie sometimes. So I'm really looking
Yes.
forward to it.
Yeah, it's much more fluid. Like a lot of times in the big tentpole movies, it's like if you want to change just a line of dialogue, you have to ask the writer, and then you have to ask the EP, and then you have to ask the studio, and then like there's
Right?
so
Which three
much,
corporations
a
are
lot of
involved? Yeah,
oh my God. As opposed to this, when, you're knee deep in the shit and you're like, this isn't working. We need to change this right now.
Ellen, would she
Or,
say that? No.
yes.
Thank you so much for talking to me about it all, and I hope everybody goes and checks it out. Of course, the whole world, I'm sure, is going to end up seeing Matrix 4, even if that's just to go online and complain about it. That's, it's how we do.
Hey, any news is good news, right? But I
Right.
do know for one thing, that movie is not meant to be watched on your iPhone.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I saw the first Matrix in the theater and then was just evangelical about it for like a week. I should call and apologize to people in a dorm with me that week, because all I did was talk about going to the Matrix again. It was like that '70s show in Star Wars, like, hey, we could go see the Matrix right now.
Yeah, if you love the first Matrix, you will be obsessed with this one.
I can't wait. I'm so envious that you got to be involved, and yeah, it's so cool. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast out of Austin, Texas. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is done by our friend and original TV Dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith.
To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com. I'm Randy Lander.
I'm Les Weiler.
And I'm Kyle Scott.
Thanks for listening.